What's up, YouTube? So today I wanted to talk about an event that's going to be happening today. It's kicking off today. And that event is, if you haven't heard of it, is Polygon 2021. I believe the official kickoff, the first discussion event, whatever you want to talk about, begins around noon today. And I wouldn't expect anything to happen, today or specifically in the next week or so, because I believe this is a week-long event. Sorry, I'm waiting to cross a really busy street right now. But yeah, if you go on there, they actually have, I believe they just released it yesterday. They have their agenda, their minutes, whatever you want to call it, that they're going to be talking about, so you can kind of follow along and see what they're talking about. Depending on the day and the time. But it's interesting because, last year I believe they had the same event. I believe there was this, Polygon 2020, and Klaus Schwab, who is, I don't know exact title, but he works for the World Economic Forum. I believe he's like the leader, the CEO, the director, whatever. He was making a speech. And I have some stuff written down here because I couldn't remember it all, and as I'm shooting this on my phone and driving, can't shoot a video and be on my phone at the same time. But on June 3rd, 2020, he made a statement stating that we need a great reset of capitalism. So anytime I do my research or I think about things, I try to connect events, and I try to show the relation to an event or a statement or whatever, and how it could lead to something in the future, or has it already happened. And he made that statement roughly 3 or so months into our pandemic, at least here in the United States. And look at the state of the world right now, and look at the state of the United States. Look at our economy. Society and our economy is in pretty much upheaval. Inflation's going through the roof. I know that when you guys go to the grocery store, you see that certain products have gone up in price significantly, especially meat. I mean, you barely get a pound of meat right now, at least where I'm at, for less than $10. Like, it's a joke. And that's like the lower end meat. That's not like, if you want like your prime rib or your tri-tip or whatever you're trying to get, that stuff's like just ridiculous. And it brings me back to, again, something I've talked about before, which is Event 201, which was the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the World Economic Forum. They partnered up for this this exercise in October of 2019 for a pandemic, and to see how it would affect, again, economy and society. What effect would that have on the economy and our society as a whole? And that was months before the pandemic broke out. You could argue that happened in November or December of 2019 because it was already starting to be released in China. And then obviously it made its way, as people travel, as people move around the world, it's spread, right? If it's even real, if it's even an actual thing, and it's not just a flu that they made tests for and made it seem like we have a pandemic when we really don't. We already know the numbers are inflated. But again, we see this common trend with the World Economic Forum making a statement or having an exercise, and then within weeks to months, something happens. I don't find that a coincidence, and I hope that you don't find that a coincidence either, that they state something and then it happens. So now he has statements going on in June 2020 of how things need to change. Here's a quote from Klaus Schwab himself, where he states, and I quote, "We all know but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole." So it sounds to me like they know that something's coming. They know, or they're planning it themselves. They have their hand in the pot. And we always have to remember that almost everything is motivated by money and greed. So who would benefit from these things being halted? If we need a reset of our capitalism, and we need to change everything to bring about this beast system or this world system, how would you do that? Well, you don't have to worry about the lower class. I mean, they're already struggling. They were struggling before all this happened, and now you throw in COVID and people are hurting even more. You've destroyed the middle class. All the small businesses, they're either shutting down or they're hurting so badly, they're basically trying to keep their head above water. So then you take out the middle class, what's left? The upper class, the elites. That's who runs everything. You know, I don't know the numbers offhand, but if you look at the big tech companies and the really, the Walmarts, the Amazons, the Sam's Clubs, all of them, they flourished during this time because they were allowed to stay open. Where all the smaller, grocery chains and the restaurants and so forth and so on, they had to shut down, and they had to fire workers, they had to lay workers off, all that good stuff. So we know who benefits from what's happening right now. The Jeff Bezos, the Mark Zuckerbergs, they're the ones that they're getting high off the hog right now, and people are buying it. He goes on to state that the I gotta watch what I say, the CV-19 crisis would be seen as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack. And that's exactly what this event, this Cyber Polygon 2021 is going to be about. It's about an attack on the transportation system, on the supply chain. And where have we seen that already? We've seen JBS cyber attacked. We've seen the Colonial Pipeline cyber attacked. We've seen, what is it? I think it's the Ireland Health Services. Let me see here. Yeah. When they're talking about this Klaus Schwab, he was saying that the cyber attack with CV-like characteristics would spread faster and farther than any biological virus. The reproductive rate would be 10 times greater than what we experienced with CV-19. 10 times greater. So again, like a biological agent takes time. You have to infect people. There's a incubation period. They've got to travel. They've got to infect other people. It takes time for these things to play out. Whereas something like a ransomware attack or malware or whatever, that's almost instant. You have a 10 times greater reproduction rate. It's infecting people so fast, infecting computers and other businesses' systems so fast, and bringing them down and bringing them to a halt. When we had the Colonial Pipeline, they paid the ransom, right? And I had this conversation with some friends. I was like, they just paid a ransom to get their pipeline back up and running. They just laid the foundation for any other hackers to now hit us constantly. And what have we seen now? Shortly after that, JBS got attacked. I believe that they paid a ransom as well. Just over this 4th of July weekend, there was over 1,500 U.S. businesses that were impacted by malware, and they were requesting, I believe it was originally 70 million in Bitcoin. I think they ended up lowering it to 50 million in Bitcoin. But again, this same thing where they realize they can hack us because our systems and our grid is so vulnerable. They can just demand money, and then that's it. We cave because they have no other option. They're at the will of these hackers, if they're even hackers. Because to be honest with you, I don't believe that this is just some Russian hacking group that's just going out there and, infecting people's businesses. I think this is all staged. I think the elites, whoever you want to call them, the Illuminati, they all have their hand in the pot. They're all influencing this. One of the agenda items that's on this event is a new currency. We see that this, the rise of Bitcoin and these other virtual currencies, and we know that if you believe in the Bible, then the end times, that there's going to be a one world system, a one world government, a one world currency, and the only way to really do that would be to make it digital. So we can start to see these things play out, right in front of us. They're happening right now. Like, did you ever think that you would live to see this? That you would be the generation, the final generation that wouldn't pass? Israel became a country, was officially in 1948, was the rebirth of Israel. And the Bible specifically states that this generation would not pass before all these things come to pass. So you could debate how long a generation is. However, in my studies, if you look at the fig tree, it actually states that, and again, I don't have any of the literature in front of me, but it's basically between 3 and 4 score years that would basically come out to between 70 and 80 years. So if it happened in 1948, we're at 73 years right now. So anytime between now and the next 7 years, realistically, which is close to this 2025, 2030 agenda, that they're constantly talking about, that would be, when something would happen, something large, like, I don't know, tribulation, anything like that, the end times, whatever you want to call it. Again, going back to like this cyber Polygon, they've gone on the record, and so has the Biden administration, about how they want people to consume less meat, and they push this climate change BS. They stated that you will eat less meat, an occasional treat, not a staple for the good of the environment and our health. That's one of 8 of the predictions by 2030 from the World Economic Forum. And then we have like JBS, the meatpacking plant, getting hacked, which is very interesting. And I don't think a lot of people know about this. I just found out about this myself. But JBS partnered with the World Economic Forum on April 28th, 2021. That was 1 month before the hack that they had. And even before that, about a week, I want to say, before the 28th, they, what is it here? They partnered again with the World Economic Forum on something called the Transparent Livestock Farming Platform. And this is to trace their entire cattle production. So again, I just said that they partnered with the World Economic Forum roughly 1 month before they were cyber attacked. And it says 9 days prior to the launch of this transparent livestock farming platform, they acquired the 3rd largest plant-based group, Vivera, for $530 million. So they're hacked a month after they merge with the partner with the World Economic Forum. They acquire a livestock group. Sorry, a plant-based group. So now you've got meat, you've got plant. Do you see that what I'm trying to say here? That this company is partnering with the World Economic Forum, and they're buying up other groups, other plants, other cattle, so that it all can be traced. Again, we go back to like CV-19 and all the rumors that they have chips in this, and they do. there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that people aren't being chipped right now so that they can be traced. There's so much information coming out, but you won't see this. If you go on CNN and Fox News and all these other mainstream outlets, you will never see this information. So if you're that type of person that relies on getting all your world information, your current events, everything going on in the world, you know, from the mainstream news, you will not know any of this. You never will. And things will start to happen and you'll be so in the dark, you won't have an idea of what's going on. Klaus Schwab goes on to say that they're going to reset, reinvent, reimagine a world to create a healthier, more equitable, and prosperous future. Again, he keeps talking about reset. So a year ago, he talks about capitalism needs to be reset. Now we see our markets in a frenzy. Inflation's through the roof. Do you know that right now, as we speak, the grocery stores are mass buying non-perishables, so like canned goods, stuff like that, because they know that not only is the market going to crash, but inflation's going to go through the roof. The Bible states that a day's wages wouldn't even buy you a loaf of bread. Could you imagine? And then not even buy a loaf of bread at your grocery store after working an entire day because of how much the cost of goods is going to go up. If the market crashes, it's going to get real bad, because they go on to state that this coming reset is going to make the 1930s Great Depression look like nothing. It's wild. Like, I don't think people are really paying attention to what's happening in the world and what's coming. It's not a matter of if it's coming, it's a matter of when. How is it that people think that we can just print money out of thin air? It's not backed by gold or silver or anything else. We just print money out of thin air, hand out trillions of dollars in money, telling people to stay at home, you know, economic relief packages, and we think that that's not going to catch up to us. And we've been doing this printing of money for years. We have been putting a band-aid on this bubble that's about to burst for so long. You know, things won't stay like this forever. They're going to snap. That bubble's going to pop. It's just, you have to look at what they're saying. You have to look at what they're preparing for, what they're exercising, and realize that this is a prelude to what is really going to happen. If they're talking about a grid down scenario, if they're talking about a supply chain interruption, that will happen. There will be supply chain interruptions, from the food, from the gas, to everything. Because they want to get this, they want you to become dependent on the government. They want you to be in a state of dependence and to be so overwhelmed because you can't afford things yourself, you can't get access to things, and they're going to incentivize this jab. There's a report coming out that I'm pretty sure it was leaked out of the military, that the FDA by September 1st is going to approve this vaccine. Because right now it's emergency use. It's not. That's why you're not seeing it mandated on the federal level, because they can't. By law, they can't. But by September 1st, maybe even earlier, because it says by September 1st, that means it could be earlier, the military will be required to get that. As soon as that happens, all federal employees, if you're watching this, you're a federal employee, you'll be mandated to get this jab. I promise you that. And then everything's going to follow suit. If federal employees and the military is being mandated to get this, private businesses, public businesses will then start to follow suit. Oh, well, the military is doing it. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us. And then you and your job will require you to get this vaccine. Or you can quit and not have any income. That's why I keep preaching this preparedness of getting food and water and an ability to protect that with metal detectors, if you know what I'm saying. This mentality of people trying to work towards a retirement, you aren't going to retire. Even if somehow things happened and the SHTF doesn't happen and we continue on and we hit 75, 80 years old, it's already like my parents weren't able to retire. My dad wasn't able to retire till he was pretty much 70 years old. Do you think that 30, 40 years in the future, when it's time for you to retire, that with the state of things and the way our economy is going, that you're going to be able to retire at 70? No. You probably won't be able to retire, period. But again, you won't have that. That's not going to happen. You aren't going to reach that age and be in the same world that you live in now. Everything's going to change within the next couple of years, if that. It's not a matter of, do I think that? I know that. I know that's coming. I've been paying attention to this since 2010 when I joined the military. That opened my eyes to so many things. And I haven't been able to stop about thinking about all this stuff ever since then. You know, there's also a report coming out that Flying J, Syntec, Loves, and Pilot have been told that the next fill up that they get, the next gas delivery that they get, is going to be their last. And they're saying once their pumps get to 10% to shut off the pumps. Now, I can't verify that. Obviously, there's not a mainstream report about that. I haven't talked to these people. However, there's a lot of different people reporting on this. Hal Turner is one of them. He's usually one of the first to be on different things because he has several sources throughout, you know, the military and the government that tell him different things. And I'm hoping that it's not true, obviously. But I would strongly suggest you go fill up your gas tanks, and if you can, maybe get some extra. Because if you're not able to get gasoline, you're going to be stuck wherever you're at, and it's not going to be good. So I hope everybody's paying attention, and I hope that you guys are preparing, you know, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I'm going to be doing a video later. I have a delivery coming in of a dolly, because I'm going to be filling up a 55-gallon drum of water to add to my preps, whatever you want to call it. Because of all things that you could, you know, you're going to need, water is the biggest one. You can't live without water. You know, you go 3 days without water, you're dead. So, and I don't think people realize how much they need water. It's not just to drink. What are you going to do if your electric goes off, you have no power, you have no way of bathing, you have no way of you know, giving water to your animals, to your kids, to your you know, your family. It's a crucial thing to have. If there's one thing you need the most of, it's water. So I would strongly suggest you go out and you get some extra water, you get some extra food, batteries, you know, candles, flashlights, all the things that you would need if the grid goes down, if the power goes out, because that's the ultimate kill shot right there. That's probably the worst thing that could happen to us. You know, even a nuclear attack that would only affect certain regions. It wouldn't affect the entire country, assuming there's only, you know, a couple set off. So again, and there'll be another video later, and I'm gonna kind of show you guys what I do to prepare my drum, to treat it, and all that good stuff. I have been waiting, just because, like I said, I'm waiting for this dolly to come in. You don't want to fill up a drum without a dolly because you're not able to move it. So at least with the dolly, you can move it around your house if you need to. Should you want to move it to another location, or whatever the reason may be that you need to move it, you're definitely going to want a dolly. So as soon as I get that dolly in, which is supposed to come in today, I'll shoot the video and be looking out for that one. But until then, stay safe.